It's time for the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show is brought to you by our title sponsor, McDonald's, College Prospects of America, and BMO Harris Bank. We are at the McDonald's on Green Street in Brownsburg. My name's Brian Scott. My co-host tonight is Christopher Worley, and we welcome you to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. Our first guest on tonight's show is the head coach of the Brownsburg Bulldogs, Coach Brett Comer. Coach, how are we doing this evening?
Very well, thank you.
All right, Bulldogs 2-0. Got the second win.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, you got a win coming off of a victory that defeated the Harrison Raiders. Homecoming night at Brownsburg. Bulldogs come away with a 27-12 victory. Second win in a row. This coming off of a game against Lafayette Jefferson, which we talked about. Chris and I did that game and said, we talk a lot about breakouts in most sports, and a lot of times we look at the offense and we'll say quarterback, wide receiver. Had a big breakout game against Jeff defensively, and then came back with Harrison and then limited the Raiders to 12 points.
Yeah, the Lafayette Jeff victory was very satisfying from the defensive standpoint. They have been averaging over 300 yards versus the teams that they've played, and really had been in games. Every game we watched on film, they were in games. The week before they played Southeastern went up and down the field a little bit. So we were very concerned with their speed. Their quarterback's the defending 100-meter champion or the 100-yard champion, whatever they run, for the state. And he and the running back were two of the four kids that were on the 4x1 state champion relay team. So we were very concerned with that. I think we gave up 160 on the night. Could have been less. There was one scramble where he went from the 29-yard line all the way back to the 1-yard line, and then we tackled him on the 29-yard line. So not even a loss, of a yard for that one. But yeah, we were very pleased with that, and that was good to see. Neat to go on the road. I like playing on the road. It's just like it's a business trip, and everybody's against you, and that's kind of fun. And they have obviously a beautiful facility. And then to be able to come home and for homecoming and to have Harrison coming in is really worrying. I mean, when they're 0-32, they haven't won a game. They're going to win eventually, and it was a ball game. It was definitely a ball game. Late into the game, but we were able to come through and make plays to finally put it away and get the homecoming victory and add to the homecoming festivities. I'm told that was our biggest crowd of the year so far. Our home stands were packed again, which is really neat to see considering how many seats we have now and how our facility has changed, and more people come to see it, and they understand they get a good seat and they get to watch a game. They'll just continue to come to those games. So.
We'll go back one more time to Lafayette Jefferson. Okay. We take a look at that game. You went into that game, defense had not recorded an interception all season long. You get in there and you record 4 picks against Matt Johnson, the quarterback for the Broncos, but a lot of that you can attribute it just directly to the pressure by the defensive line.
Yeah, we were able to get after a little bit up front. You get him on the run, he makes some errant throws. He's more accurate when he doesn't have to, when he's not being chased, as is everybody else. And you're right. Caleb Cooley had 2 picks. One of them I give him a hard time because he picked it off on 4th down, and the rule is you knock it down. Now, luckily, he returned it beyond the stick, so he gained some yards on it. So, but yeah, it was good to see. It was good to see him step up. Brad had another pick in that game and had one against Harrison to help seal it in the homecoming victory as well.
Oh.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Hey, just one other thing about that Jeff game. Mm-hmm. Who was it? I forget. I don't have my lineup in front of me that played quarterback the last few snaps there. You got him in 87.
Now you're making me go back. Yeah,
Okay,
our lefty was
I wondered
Zach
about that.
McEwen.
Yeah, that's
we have had a revolving door at many positions this year, and that somewhat attributes to where we are record-wise. But we've had 4 different kids play quarterback on Friday night, and you might think, well, you're gaining depth. Yeah, we're doing it out of necessity too now. There's some people that are taking some shots, and we're rotating through based on necessity. So yeah, Zach McEwen, and he has won some JV games for us, as has Clint Fink, who came in on Friday night and played well for Hunter in his absence based on his injury. So it's certainly been a spinning door, if you will.
Well, let's talk about last Friday night against Harrison. Bulldogs come away with a 27-12 victory. You're up 10-0 in the first quarter, and before Hunter Johnson goes out in the second quarter, got to see him finally have some nice accuracy with the ball. Not maybe the deepest passes, but 5 for 5.
No, and that was a plan. That was built in to, and we really went back on our weekends, and our coaches spend Saturdays and Sundays in our office, and worked on some easy throws, some easy completions, and you hear, you watch the NFL games, you hear it all the time, or a college game where they want to get a guy some confidence throws. And we were able to do that. And he's 5 for 5. I told him that too. I said, man, you can't be hurt. You're 5 for 5. Are you kidding me? You don't want to go out of this game. And he did not want to. Our doctors said, we're going to put him on the shelf. And he came out in headgear and shoulder pads second half anyway. Started warming up. They're like, what are you doing? He's like, I want to play, and which is great to see. And maybe one of the lasting images from that game was when he got knocked in the head and his helmet goes flying off, and it was a shoulder bruise or whatever it was. He picks his helmet up, comes running off the field. That was pretty neat.
Just got right back up.
To see a kid, he's only a freshman, and he's got some moxie, and he's taken some hits, and he'll give plenty of those hits as well as he's throwing balls. But he was certainly more confident, and we were able to get people the ball, and they made catches. That was big. Because his numbers haven't been pretty, but some of it's been attributed to drops, because we have kids that are playing whether it's a new position or first time on Friday night and trying to make catches in traffic, and we were able to do that. And he made some throws and could have had a touchdown on a spot pass we threw to Isaiah Hightower. He got tripped up. Thought that one was in the house, and it wasn't. We had to end up scoring it on the ground. So.
And that seems to have been the one player that we've seen Hunter go to. He seems to have a good eye to looking for Isaiah Hightower.
It's funny because Isaiah was our best receiver coming in, and he had a high ankle sprain during two-a-days, at the very end of two-a-days, actually. So he missed our first three games. Then when he finally came back, he really wasn't Isaiah, and he's finally getting back to that, which is good to see because he's a senior with one of few at receiver that had experience from last year, and he's able to come back, and he was injured, and now he's finally getting through it, and he's getting back to being Isaiah, if you will.
Well, also in this Harrison game, you had somebody else step up big and take a offensive load. We know, of course, Toks had 25 carries, and we expected that coming into this game. And, you're going to get him the ball again, but I thought Vincent Lisman did a fantastic job.
Well, and Vinny's earned playing time because he came out in the second half versus Southeastern, and we had a major deficit, and he provided a spark for us. And God love him, he's 128 pounds, and his brother's not much bigger. Who's in the Marines now, played for us, just graduated last year. But Vincent has certainly done that, and he has some quicks, and he's got some shake, if you will, and he's a little bitty dude. So getting a hit on that kid is difficult. Our defense doesn't like it because they're chasing him around and he's spinning and ducking and weaving. But that's part of what he does for us. So he's back with Toks, if you will, playing again together, as they did when they were younger. And there are some other kids that are chomping at the bit to do that too. So but he's also running kicks back, and right. as far as his ability to do that, they're learning. And Toks is doing the same thing. He's only returned one in his life as a kickoff returner. Well, that was 29 yards, so we kind of like those numbers. So we're going to let him do that for a couple more years.
Now, you had the loss of Hunter Johnson in that game. You also had another big loss with Devontae Allen going out in that game.
Yeah, you bet. And that's a high ankle. I'm not sure. He's day-to-day right now on our rank 1 injury report. And our trainers are really proactive at trying to get people back. So he's in a boot, walking around school in a boot, and then he's getting stem and ice, and they're doing everything they can to get him back as soon as possible. But we're not going to push it. I mean, you just can't. We certainly want to get him back as soon as we can, and would like to have him back Friday night because he's really turned into a player. And there's a kid that was untested coming into the season, and he's learning how to be a Friday night guy, and he's finally figured it out. And then we lose him. So he's a bullet in the gun we'd like to be able to put back in there, but right now we can't do that.
I thought that was a big story in this game. We mentioned people filling in for injuries, but you start that second half and you've lost 2 starters, and you're struggling on offense that it is, and we were thinking, oh, boy. But then you had, a number of strong performances, certainly Toks, but Clint Fink, I know he gets a lot of JV time. He had to go in there in that second half. What did he do? He led down 2 touchdown drives. His stats weren't great, but he did the job.
No, it's exactly right. And on the back of my ID that I wear every day at school, it says "Next Man Up," and it's stealing from the Colts, if you will. But we did that several years ago, and that's still kind of a mantra. And you never know when it's you're one snap away from the next guy. On any given play, any given night, that could happen, whether it's a quarterback or whether it's a linebacker or regardless of the position. So we were proud of Clint for stepping in the way he did. He's gotten moved around a little bit with the arrival of Hunter because he was going to be our guy, and then he and Jacob went at it all summer, and Jacob earned the position. Jacob's no longer playing for us based on his injury status, and then we get a move in, and Clint and Hunter are going after it, and he gets the job, and then Clint steps in and helps us win a football game, and he made some really good decisions. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily throwing the ball, but our quarterbacks have to do a lot. I mean, they're checking the line of scrimmage, they're checking the play, they're deciding on a play, they're deciding on the direction of the play, and then once the ball's snapped, they still have decisions to make. Do I give it to the fullback? Do I keep it? Do I pitch it? So it's not an easy position to play for us, and based on what we do, and we're as dynamic as we are and have been because our quarterbacks are able to make those decisions and make those plays. And he was able to do it. I mean, he did a great job for us in the second half.
Of course, you've got Hunter Johnson, whether he plays this week or not, and then you've got Clint Fink. What's some of the differences between those two?
Well, Hunter's more of a thrower. I mean, and that's evident as you watch him warm up or as you watch him play in the games that he has. Clint's a year older, which we like. I hate playing freshmen. We don't even like to play sophomores. You hear that, Tokes? We don't even like to play sophomores. But when they're quality players, they're going to play, and the best player is going to play, and that's a mantra that we go by. And regardless of what your name is or how old you are, you can do it. You can do it. You're the guy. Sometimes that's because we don't have other people. Sometimes that's because of the ability that they have. Tokes rushed for 900 yards last year as a freshman. That's unheard of at big schools. We have a freshman quarterback. That's unheard of at big schools. That just doesn't happen very often. And those guys are good enough to do that. So that's a testament to them.
We get to defensively. We talked about the progression from Jeff now to Harrison. Harrison, you've seen that offense before. You're very, very familiar with that offense. And while Harrison doesn't have the bodies, let's just be honest, to compete, they do have a 2-year starter quarterback in Jake Lasky.
Oh, no. They've got some kids that – and Tony asked me after the game, he said, you think I've lost my guys? I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's difficult. You got to give those kids credit. You have the coaches credit that you go through a spell like that, getting up every day to go to work and to do that and to lose games and to lose games and to lose games was tough. They have kids that play for us right now. They have kids that play for anybody in our league right now, including their quarterback and probably especially their quarterback because he's a pain. He really is because they're going to drop back. And what they're doing is it's kind of fun that imitation is the highest form of flattery. So we'll take a little bit of that. When they get into the flex bone, you kind of know what's coming, but you still have to defend it. Everybody knows what we're going to do too, and they still have to defend it. They also present you an interesting matchup because they'll go to empty or they'll go to 2x2, and he'll drop back, and the kid will take off. So, and he made some plays like that. The touchdown pass it was the first half, where we're in man coverage and we have a linebacker come off his receiver, and their quarterback's running towards the line of scrimmage. He stops and just pops it over the top, and it's a touchdown. We're in cover zero, so we have no safety in the middle of the field, and they score a touchdown. They're plenty dynamic. It'll be interesting to see just how successful those three teams are in the league that they play in next year, because I got a feeling they're going to all three be successful in what they play because of who they've been playing the past X number of years in the HCC. You
had a good game with that pass rush against Lasky. You had Zach Carlson and Stone Neese providing some pressure. You only had, I think, the one sack.
Yeah, there was only one sack.
But Lasky proves he's a very elusive guy, but you did get pressure.
Sure. Yeah, we did, and that throws timing off, and that throws routes off, and it throws quarterback off, and et cetera. Our guys that are playing up front, and we brought Zach more on Friday night. Coach Neal's plan was to do that and to disrupt it a little bit, and we found a couple stunts that worked better than others, if you will, which is what you're always looking for. But yeah, Stone is a adept at rushing the passer. It's a little different taking things on or taking a fullback on. But then again, so are other guys. Mac Dutra's done the same. He's been on the show with us before. So was Ramsey. We're playing some other guys. If you look closely, Evan Mallory's playing some defensive linemen. Bryce Toll is playing some defensive line. And we started flipping guys a little bit. Brandon Weber's now playing some offensive line. In the fact that, as you look at most of our opponents, flip some guys. Number 44 is playing linebacker in practice. He just hadn't done much in the game yet. But it's coming. So just to get our best guys on the field, we have to do that. And we've been very fortunate the past few years. We haven't. Last year, Dutra was the only kid who played both ways. The year before, Chase played a little bit. And then, Bobby Carr played both ways a little bit. And that was it. And that's all we've had to do the past few years. And this year we're doing a little more, just based on what we need.
I know that one, and you mentioned it in the Hendricks County Flyer, though, and I know they asked you about it, but the decision to go for it there late in the first half on 4th and 5 instead of taking the field goal.
I was very candid with my answer, too.
Right, that was good. But I felt, and I said, well, I think they're confident in their defense, can hold this Harrison down. Okay, you might miss this, okay, but I think it was also a confidence in defense. How much did that play into it? I know you wanted to score.
It was. I wanted to score, and if I go back and play it again, I'm an idiot because I should have kicked it because I got a quarterback who didn't get many reps all week. and a wideout who's a senior who hasn't caught very many balls, and I should have kicked it. And I got a field goal kicker who's going to make it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, having your defense in your pocket and playing well is part of it. Having confidence that you're going to score is part of it too. And we were rolling, and we fully expected to be able to score, and we didn't. So luckily, we're in good position to play defense because the ball's on the 4-yard line. So they got a little ways to go,
right.
Or that means they have more yards that they can gain. One of the two, I guess. But that's exactly right. Now this Friday night, I'm kicking that field goal. Trust me.
Okay.
We expect a little different kind of contest on Friday.
You're listening to the Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB. We're joined by the Bulldogs head football coach Brett Comer. You mentioned you might have kicked it again, and Brandon Dowers got a couple of big kicks in that game Friday night.
Yeah, we had an interesting conversation about the very end of the game. There was that fourth down about I wanted to let him kick it. I was just to give him an opportunity to kick a long one. It's just something you always want to do as a kicker, and in high school.
Was that the 50-yard?
Yeah, that was the 50-yarder. And in high school, I kicked and punted and played offense and defense, and you always want to kick a long field goal. And it's something we haven't really done. I mean, we hit a 47, I guess, at Avon, but not over 50. And it's just different. Up front, you got to hold it a little bit longer because the kicker's going to take a little bit more time because he's trying to, muster up the power.
It's going to be a lower angle of kick and everything.
It is, and we try and get him to stroke it the same, but that just doesn't happen. And as a kicker, you're not going to do it the same. And he hit it, too. He hit it clean, and he hit the ball really well Friday night and has for the past several weeks. But even his kickoffs, and we do a lot with our kickoffs, and it's not that he can't bash it in the end zone. When we have, a wind against us or whatever, we're going to play with the wind, and we're going to do some trick kicks and try and steal it. Our goal this Friday night for homecoming was to steal a possession on our special teams, and we did that. If you recall, after our field goal, we went up 10-0. We kicked onside. And they'd line up in it. We're in a normal kickoff, a normal deep kickoff alignment, and we kicked onside and we recovered it. Yeah. Now, the good thing was we recovered it. The bad thing was we had just lost our quarterback. It's like, Coach, what are you doing? Hey, boys, we got the ball. Let's go.
We got the ball back.
Yeah, let's go. Get him in there. So get him a snap and let's go. And that was where it was. So Brandon allows us to do a lot of those things, being able to kick it onside or put it in a hole, maybe 20, 30 yards downfield and try and steal it. And we've had success with that, not just this year, but in the past couple of years. If you recall last year, a big game versus Southeastern, we scored a first touchdown after back and forth turnovers and a couple of punts. We score the first touchdown. We sky it. We recovered on our sideline. We score against 14-0, and that's big. I mean, those are stealing possessions from people, which is what he allows us to do with the kicking game, at least our kickoffs.
Something else we've noticed in the kicking game is Nathan Ramsey is getting more consistent.
Yeah.
He's putting the ball out there 40 yards.
And he's getting more comfortable, too. And I made the comment, if we ever have a D lineman try out to be our punter again, don't let me do it. But Nathan averaged just under 35 yards last year in his first year doing it. This year he was a little uncomfortable at the beginning, and part of it was he's playing more. So the fatigue factor stepped in, and he's worried about playing defense, but then he's got to, he peels his gloves off to go back there and be our punter. And you're right, he's hit the ball much better throughout the year, and as we've gone, and our goal is, our net goal is a 30-yard punt. Our overall goal is a 35, and he hit that last week. Even though he only had one punt, he was right at 35 yards. So you bet he's been able to do that for us.
We'll have the Zionsville Eagles at Zionsville this week, and Chris and I kind of talking before the game. You look at last season, 9-0, perfect regular season. Go to sectionals, and then you'll have that one game with Zionsville again, and that seems to almost been the history in this series the past few years, and that'll end this year, of course, with Zionsville in 5A and your team in 6A. You won't be facing in sectionals. It seemed like whoever won regular season, other team took the sectional.
Yeah.
So this is your one shot this year to get a little redemption.
It was, and Larry and I talked about that last year in week 8, that it felt like 2009 all over again. And we were at our place, and it was raining, and we played in the mud, and we ended up winning that game attempting 0 passes. They tried 4, and we're 0 for 4. The sectional, we knew it would be different. Zionsville defends us as well as anybody. They're very, very fundamentally sound. And last year, they got ready for us in week 8. In week 9, they played Avon, but the conference title was already over. And then in week 10, they're playing us again. So there were 3 weeks in a row that they prepped for us, if you will. So it was a perfect alignment for them. And in that game, they led most of the game. We took the lead with only, I think, 3.5 minutes left in the game. And then they were able to come down the field and hit us on a 4th and I don't know what it was, and went up and made a play. So they beat us on an alley-oop and a lateral. But we're not bitter. Don't worry. We have certainly, and it was funny because you mentioned the flyer. Brent also asked me about that game and how much we had been thinking of Zionsville, and the answer was we weren't. Not at all. And we really hadn't been. We are now. Yeah. And we've certainly talked about how we all felt at the end of that game. We had some kids in tears thinking about it and not making the play that we could have made and should have made, blah, 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 or however it was going to work out. But that is – I'm not sure that's motivating all of our guys by any means because, the sophomores weren't there anyway. The kids that are juniors last year weren't playing. Most of them weren't anyway. Some of them were. So we'll see just how intrinsically motivated we are on Friday night from that.
And you're going to be facing what will be a rather emotional team for Zionsville in their regular season finale at home. Of course, Coach Larry McWhorter, this is his final year at Zionsville. He'll be moving on to build another program, but this will be a big game at Zionsville and another big emotional game for your team.
Right, and I'm sure it's their senior night as well, and that always adds a little something to it. It's usually a very physical game with Zionsville based on the nature of their offense and what they do, that they're going to pound it at you and try and run power and ISO and counter, and you have to withstand it. They're also very patient in what they do, and it's almost a team that waits on you to make a mistake to try and beat you. And that's been their MO the past several years, and they've been very successful with it. And they've been a difficult team for us on our schedule. I mean, bottom line, you go back and look at the last 10 years or whatever it is, they have a winning record over us for sure because of it. But they also execute it, and like we said, they're probably the most fundamentally sound team that we see. That's what we call it, on offense and on defense. So it'll be an interesting matchup for sure.
After this weekend, you'll know who your sectional opponent is going to be, and you'll have game against Zionsville, and then you'll end the season at home against right now the co-leaders in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, the Fishers Tigers. As you start to look ahead a little bit towards sectionals, what's kind of the goals you want to get, and where do you want your team as sectionals begin?
Obviously, we want to win Friday night, and that's first and foremost. We haven't talked about sectionals at all. At this point, and where we are at 3 and 4 is just to continue to get better and to give ourselves chances to win games because we have young kids and we're trying to get that experience yet still win games. We have no control over the sectionals, so it doesn't matter. Who we draw or where we play is who we draw, and that's where we're going to go play. Fishers will be interesting at home for us, having been to their senior night last year and almost a role reversal. Based on the fact that where we were and where they were, and as far as the conference championship went, and so it'll be interesting to see how things shake out this Friday because it's going to affect the next week as well.
That is the head coach of the Brownsburg Bulldogs, Coach Brett Comer. The Bulldogs take on the Zionsville Eagles this Friday night, a game you can listen right here on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. Troy Weimer, Christopher Worley. They'll have all the action for you. Kickoff set for 7 o'clock. Coach, good luck this week against the Eagles.
Thank you very much.
All right, when we come back, we are going to have the College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week, Toks Akinribade. Stay tuned. This is the McDonald Hendricks County Sports Show on XRB. Right now at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's, you can check out the brand new Mighty Wings. Mighty Wings are hearty bone-in chicken wings that are crispy and breaded with a spicy kick. Available in 3-piece, 5-piece, or 10 pieces, a 3-piece is only $2.99 at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's. Are you interested in playing a sport at the collegiate level? College Prospects of Central Indiana can help you achieve this dream. Right now, thousands of college coaches are searching for athletes, but lack the resources to find them. This includes Division I, II, and III, as well as NAIA and junior colleges. College Prospects can help both male and female student athletes get the best education at the best price that allows them to continue participating in a sport they love. We do this through maximum exposure, providing you with essential tools, video, and unlimited personal guidance during the recruiting process. For complete details on all of our services, ask your local representatives, Bill Verhonick, Megan Eganoff, Joe Palizzi, or Rusty Dimer. You can also visit our website at www.collegeprospectsofcentralindiana.com or contact us at 317-650-4339. We also offer services for gifted students looking for the best fit in academics as well. College Prospects of America can help you achieve your dreams. Since 1984, BMO Harris Bank has grown to become one of the largest banks in the Midwest, serving personal, commercial, and affluent customers. Located locally at 610 West Northfield Drive in Brownsburg, we thank them for their sponsorship of the Hendricks County Coaches Show. Welcome back to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. We are at the Brownsburg McDonald's on Green Street this evening. I want to remind fans that still got a couple more shows that you can get to. Next week we will be in Avon on Rockville Road at 267 at the Avon McDonald's right there in front of Kroger's. Next week our special guest will be Avon head football coach Mark Bless. I'm joined by my co-host Christopher Worley, and it's time for our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week. He is Toks Akinribade, a 6', 200-pound sophomore running back for the Brownsburg Bulldogs. Last year as a freshman, ran for 908 yards and 13 touchdowns. It's something Coach Brett Comer said early in the segment. Not what you hear normally, what you'll hear out of a freshman tailback. And guess what? He's already at 908 yards this season, 9 touchdowns. And Toks, welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us.
Good, that's good.
All right, you've come into this season. You pretty much knew you were going to get the ball to go and to start this season. How have you felt back there running? You've been running strong and breaking off some nice runs.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work. I mean, over the summertime, we put in a lot of work, and I've been taking a lot of hits this week, and I've been working in on a little bit of linebacker this week too. So without the line, I mean, I don't know what I would do, but the line's really been doing a lot of pushing, and the other wings and other positions have been helping me out too a lot.
Now you've got you've got somebody you can go out and help you a little bit about playing linebacker, right?
Yep.
Of course, we're talking about his brother A.J. Akinribade now at Wabash College. He played for Coach Comer through 2006 and 2010. So you've played offense. You're getting a little bit defense. Which side of the ball you like better?
I still like offense better.
Good.
I already know it, and I know everything about it, so I like offensive better than defense.
Is that something you've always just been an offensive player?
Yeah, I've always been an offensive player, and I've always liked it better because I was always better at it. Defense, I played a little bit defense in middle school, but I never was really that good or coached at it. So now that I have the chance to be coached at it, I still like defense better. I like offense better.
So what do you like about running the football?
I mean, I just like being able to make cuts and score touchdowns and hear people calling my name.
The Toks, you must, and I know strength coach Neese is very important to this team. It looks like besides good speed, you have power in your legs. So is that something you worked on in the summer and even now, conditioning your legs and getting strength in your legs? Because you sure got some good power.
Yeah, we've been doing, Coach Neese has trained me a lot. And like I said, over the summer, we've done a lot of conditioning. So I think I was prepared for it.
Now, if you had to go back and scout yourself, how would you describe yourself as a runner?
Like, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, you see yourself as a power back, a sprint back, somebody that combines the power with the explosive speed. What do you see yourself as?
I see myself as a combined back, basically, with power and a little bit of speed. But I say more of a power back because I have the ability to bounce off of people and still get a couple of yards.
Now, when you get that corner, and we've already seen this, you've had a couple of really nice long touchdown runs this season. What do you see? You get that corner. If you got that extra gear you like to kick in?
Yeah, I mean, I still need to work on my speed a lot, but, yeah, once I hit the sideline, I think I try to look for as much room as I can get, but they usually have a good angle on me, so I usually try to lose for the cutback.
And, in this flex bone offense, so you get the ball, behind maybe a couple yards behind the scrimmage, or you're in motion somewhere. You're trying to read your blocks, and you mentioned this line. I think they've done a pretty good job. Now, they've had to learn, too, as this year's gone on. But you have things to read, too. It's not just a quarterback. You have to read what hole and what you're looking at to get open, right?
Yes. The linemen, they've actually done really good this year, and their blocking is really amazing. They're big and physical, and they make the openings for me. I don't really make it. It's the offensive line that makes it for me. I just read what they make and just go.
So now you're coming into this season. You've got 908 yards. What kind of goals do you set for yourself as you begin each season?
Well, this year I was just trying to rush over 1,000 yards and win a sectional game because I haven't won a sectional game yet, so I was trying to hope we can win a sectional game this year.
So now you mentioned that. We talked to Coach Comer before you came on. You've got this big game this week at Zionsville. You got the game in the regular season last week, but as he said, you may be one of the few players that came back from last year's team to this year's team. What does this week's game against Zionsville mean to you?
It means a lot because they got us. We got them last year, the first game, but the second game they got us. So this game really means a lot to me because I don't think we're facing them in sectional, so it just means a lot to me. And we've won 2 games in a row now, so I think we have a good chance and we can get back on track.
Now, we mentioned your brother, AJ. Have you guys ever – what's your history? Have you guys played a lot of one-on-one in the backyard?
No, we used to play – well, yeah, we used to play backyard football a lot with a couple of his friends, and this was back when I was in, like, middle school or elementary, and I used to play with his kids in his high school times. So, yeah, I used to play with him a lot and take a lot of hits. It was really difficult.
So that gets you toughened you up, got you prepared for what you were going to see once you hit high school.
Yeah, it got me toughened up a little bit.
Yeah, I think, Tokes, I know you're going to be excited about this Zionsville game, and I know your team and coaches will. Anything you like to do special right before a game to get fired up? Do you do anything special with the fellas or on your own?
I mean, not really. Me and my teammates, we just kind of talk about what we can work, how we can win this game, and what we can do to win this game, and if we mess up, how we can help each other out. So we're always there for each other. That's what we do for the game.
Now, you've been running the ball. You've been running it, of course, very effectively. Starting to see a few touches out of the passing game. Is that something you want to help work on and get a little bit better at?
Yeah, the coaches they didn't really trust me before running routes, but now they're starting to let me touch the ball a little bit more outside of the run game with pass.
Really? You throw me on
the bus? as we hear from Coach Comer right now, you're a sophomore, and of course, your production the past year and now through most of the season definitely caught a few eyes out there. During the summer you made an unofficial visit to IU and had some others. As you start looking through your high school career, what are your plans once that ends?
Really just to continue playing football in college times and try to play for a D1 school possibly if I can. But other schools I would still play for. I just want to play college and play football in college.
Have you got anybody in mind that you would really like to be running the ball for on Saturdays?
Not really. I mean, there's a lot of schools, but I don't really have a certain one.
Well, that is Toks Akinribade. He is our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week. I'm sure you're going to be hearing his name mentioned quite a bit this Friday night as the Bulldogs take on the Eagles of Zionsville. Toks, good luck this Friday and best of luck the rest of this season.
Yep, thank you.
Go get him.
All righty, that is Toks Akinribade as we get ready for the big game this Friday night as the Bulldogs will take on the Zionsville Eagles. That is a game you can hear right here on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. As my co-host Christopher Worley and I, we're going to take a few moments here and we're going to talk about this Friday's game as the Bulldogs will take on the Eagles. Eagles ranked 13th in Class 5A, but they're coming off of a loss. It was to HCC co-leader Fishers last Friday by the score of 17-7. And Chris, as Coach Comer said coming into this game, Zionsville always a team that is very fundamental. They play. They're not going to turn the ball over a lot. They're going to play base sound defense. They're not going to throw too much what we would call unusual stuff at you, but they're just going to play you very soundly, play you man-to-man on a lot of instances, make sure they keep everybody up front and try to limit as best as they can.
Well, there's proof of that in their last game against Fishers. They allowed 17 points. Okay, they lost 7-17, but we've seen that high-powered Fishers offense score a lot of points all year. Right now, their Zionsville defense only letting up just over 15 points a game. And if you look at all their games, they're low-scoring and close. The offensive side of the ball has been a problem for them. Them being Zionsville, they scored 35 points was their high point of the year, but, of course, that was against Harrison. So, as Coach said here, I expect this to be a tough defensive battle. Zionsville, they're used to playing against Brownsburg in this flex bone, so I see it really close. This is going to be an important game for both teams.
Now, of course, a lot of what's going to be going on Friday, a lot of it's going to be based on who Coach Comer is going to have to be able to play. Devontae Allen, he has, if as Coach said, he has a high ankle sprain. He may be day-to-day, but as many high ankle sprain goes, as we've already learned about Isaiah Hightower, had one at the end of 2-a-days. That pretty much limited him the first 3 weeks. So I think if you're the Bulldogs and Coach Comer, you're probably not expecting Devontae Allen, who has done a fantastic job as a wingback, coming along this season in a position the Bulldogs really, really need. That flexbone offense, you need a strong tailback. You'd like to have a good wide receiver. You have to have a quarterback that can run the read option, and you also have to have a good wingback. That being said, we also do not know who the Bulldogs are going to start at quarterback.
Right.
If Hunter Johnson, the freshman who evidently got his bell rung, the training staff kept him out of the rest of that game against Harrison, is unable to go, well, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Clint Fink. As Coach Comer says, been a bit of a revolving door at quarterback, and he's already kind of let us know Jacob Lambert will not play for the Bulldogs the rest of this season. We've now got Hunter Johnson out. That brings it to Clint Fink, and then who? But that's going to be a big, big key to what happens on Friday night.
Well, Brian, just based on what I saw last week, I think Hunter will come back for this game. And of course, the coaching staff's not going to let us know that for sure right now here on Wednesday before the game. But I think Hunter Johnson will be able to start the game. But that's the thing about this game on both sides. I've got so many question marks here, as you mentioned, the quarterbacks. And then I think in this game there's a big emotional factor. You've already mentioned it. Head coach McWhorter's last home game for Brownsburg, they have the emotion of trying to get back at Zionsville after suffering that terrible sectional loss last year after a perfect season. A lot of question marks. I'm not sure which way to go on this. If I had to pick, I would give Zionsville a slight edge in a very low-scoring game, maybe something like 13-10.
Zionsville has not been the strongest offensive team coming into this game. They are only averaging a little over 12 points per game, as we mentioned. Eagles always strong defensively. They're only giving up about 15 points, so you can't afford any mistakes, and with a very young Bulldogs team, that could be key. The big key, can Coach Comer's defense continue to progress after this Lafayette-Jefferson game and into Harrison? They got the one pick from Brad Geilinger, but then they also got nice pressure from Zach Carlson and Stone Neese. They also got a lot of pressure from Mac Dutra. They're going to need that front four really to step up in this game and provide, again, more pressure on Zionsville.
Yes, this is a defensive unit that at the start of the year started 9 new players out of 11, and now they've had all these practices and games. They've definitely improved, and they are running some blitz packages now. So they know that they're going to have to come up big against Zionsville, and I think they realize, too, it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. And I expect Zionsville, here we are sitting here Wednesday night wondering about the Brownsburg quarterback. Coach McWhorter and his defensive coordinator, they know that, too. So, and they know that the guy that sat right here just a little bit ago, Toks, is going to get the ball. He had 25 attempts last time. I wouldn't be surprised at least 25 in this game, so they're going to be keyed to stop him. So it would really help Brownsburg's defense that has improved to get a couple turnovers somewhere, an interception, a fumble recovery, something like that. They need to force some turnovers to help out in this game.
And the offense can do their job by making some longer sustained drives. The one great thing about Toks Akinribade, again, he's already matched his yardage total from last year through 7 games this season. Now, he's got a few fewer touchdowns. Don't blame Toks on that. This has been a Brownsburg offense that early in the season went 3 and out quite often. Right. But Toks has shown he's been able to run it against some of the better defenses in this league. As he mentioned, he's a power back. We have seen the speed. He would probably say that he said just a minute ago on the College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week, didn't see him quite as much of a speed runner. We've seen him get to the edge and then nobody catch him. So he does have the speed. That'll be a big key. Can the Bulldogs, in my opinion, gain control in time of possession, get a few nice runs, and then the big key, as you mentioned, limit your turnovers. Bulldogs need to take care of the football and then see if their defense can come up with a big play. That'll be key coming up on Friday.
I agree. And like I said, they need to force some turnovers. Bulldogs haven't made a lot of turnovers themselves on offense, so this defense is going to have to really step up big, and then Toks carry a big load.
All right, when we come back, we are going to be talking about the rest of the of the Hendricks County schools as we get ready for this week. You're listening to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. Right now at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's, you can check out the brand new Mighty Wings. Mighty Wings are hearty bone-in chicken wings that are crispy and breaded with a spicy kick. Available in 3-piece, 5-piece, or 10 pieces, a 3-piece is only $2.99 at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's. Are you a high school student athlete who would like to play at the next level, but are confused and unfamiliar with the college recruiting process? There is good news. College Prospects of America can help. We have been helping athletes get recruited since 1986. Right here in Central Indiana, we have representatives who offer personal and professional guidance to both male and female student athletes. Call us today at 317-650-4339 to learn all about recruiting and how we can help. You only have one chance to get recruited. Act now. Contact College Prospects of America at 317-650-4339. Since 1984, BMO Harris Bank has grown to become one of the largest banks in the Midwest, serving personal, commercial, and affluent customers. Located locally at 610 West Northfield Drive in Brownsburg, we thank them for their sponsorship of the Hendricks County Coaches Show. And welcome back to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. Brian Scott with you, and I'm joined by my co-host, Christopher Worley. This evening we are at the Brownsburg McDonald's on Green Street, and you can see us 2 more times this season. Next week, Chris and I will be in Avon. We will be at the Avon McDonald's on Rockville Road, just off of 267 in front of Kroger's. Our special guest will be Avon head football coach Mark Bless, and it's time for Chris and I to take a look at the rest of the high school football action going on in Hendricks County this week. And we'll start this segment off with the Avon Orioles. Avon coming off of a thorough demolishing of Lafayette Jefferson during homecoming last week. That game, it was 54-14, and it was over fast, folks. I mean, you went through the first 6 minutes of that first quarter, Chris, and Avon had scored a touchdown on offense, defense, and special teams. And for Lafayette Jeff, it only got worse. By the beginning of the second quarter, Avon was already up 35-0 and cruised from there.
Yeah, they're a hot team right now. They've won 3 straight. Going in this game, McCutcheon has lost 3 straight. But Avon, I think we said last week, any team in this conference, I would not want to be playing them right now.
David Shaw came away with 49 yards on 8 carries. Derek Tennant, 6 carries for 68 yards. And late in that game, when Coach Bless started bringing in some of the second and even third teamers, Tywan Johnson, 9 carries for 61 yards. Offensively, it was for Avon Brandon Peters, 10 of 12, very efficient, 169 yards. Threw a couple of touchdown passes. Cress Kimbrough was in the mix in that as well, as Kimbrough ended up finishing the game, 1 catch for 39 yards. It was a touchdown pass. Actually, he caught a couple of more balls than that. I was looking at my rushing yardage. Kimbrough on the day, 5 catches, 100 yards. He ended up with 2 touchdowns. This game was over very quick. He actually ended up with 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And this was just a game continuing the theme for Avon over the past few weeks. It's been the defense. Yeah. And for the 3rd game in a row, Avon even gets a play on special teams. And you and I have talked about it. We've talked with Coach Mark Bless. We've even talked with Coach Comer. When you start seeing scores in your special teams, you're going to win a whole lot of football games.
Right. In their defense, I counted they had 3 scores also. A safety, an interception return for a touchdown, and a block punt. And, Brian, isn't that 3 straight weeks that Avon's had block punts?
Yeah, they've had three straight weeks of block punts, and all 3 of them eventually turned into touchdowns. They get a safety in the end zone on a penalty. I believe that's the 2nd week in a row they've managed to pull that one off as well. So Coach Bless and the Orioles, they have now won 3 straight. Offensively, they are still gelling. This is still a young team. Sophomore quarterback Brandon Peters still playing very well. He did throw an interception in that game last week against Lafayette Jefferson, kind of one of those just late in the game, late in the first half deals. But still, Avon playing very well. They're going to be facing the McCutcheon Mavericks, and this is a Maverick team at the beginning of the season was ranked rather highly in Class 5A. They come in, they took a loss to Brownsburg in that opening game of the season, then ran off 3 straight, including a game that they pretty much handled Zionsville 30-6 before beating their 2 Tippecanoe County school rivals in Lafayette, Jefferson, and Harrison, but then losses to Noblesville, Fishers, and Westfield. Those are tough teams, and Noblesville has kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside, but 2 of your losses are to the HCC co-leaders, and they got pretty much handled in that game. This will be an interesting game to see how Avon comes out. Avon's had the better of this matchup over the last 15 years. They're 12-4, and they beat McCutcheon last year at Avon 35-21. For Coach Bless, this is still going to be about now running the ball with Tennant and Shaw, and the big playability between Peters and Kimbrough, and then just letting that defense loose and seeing what kind of havoc they can do against McCutcheon.
Right. I do think that offense will score against McCutcheon. Their last 3 losses, McCutcheon, they've given up 28 points to Noblesville, 47 to Fishers, which is not unusual, and then 42 at Westfield. Now, Avon's offense is dialed back a little bit from Westfield and Fishers, but still, Brandon Peters, to me, he's very intelligent. He's gaining confidence now. We saw that in 10 out of 12. Very efficient last week. So, and I really see this defense continuing to do fine. I think they'll go on the road here and get a win against McCutcheon, and that'll set up their big game. They're going to finish with Zionsville. Yeah,
they'll finish at home. The season at home with Zionsville as they get ready for sectionals. So they'll have the Avon coaches. They'll have an eye up at Zionsville as the Bulldogs take on the Eagles this week. Of all the teams last week in the Hendricks County, for Hendricks County schools, a pretty successful week. Out of the 6 schools, 5 of them came away with victories. Yeah. Unfortunately, the one that didn't were the Plainfield Quakers. They took on Franklin. Franklin was ranked last week, and it was the Grizzly Cubs coming away with a 42-28 victory. 21 points in that second quarter had Franklin leading 21-6 at half. Plainfield kind of exploded there in the fourth, but it was a little bit too little too late. And Plainfield, after starting the season 4-1, they've now lost to Decatur Central and Franklin. They're now 4-3 on the season. Yeah, Decatur Central, their record, they should be better than their record with that high-scoring offense. Franklin, after that win against Plainfield, they're now 5-2, so they're a good team. So those are 2 tough opponents. Plainfield was actually down 28-6, I think, in this game, Brian. Then Jacob Maple came on. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, 148 yards. Their coach in the papers this week called this Plainfield game a huge step backward for them. So they're going to have to recover here, and they're facing a tough Whiteland team who's right now 5-2. Their running back, Jeff Wooten, ran for 243 yards and 4 TDs himself this past week, and they averaged Whiteland in the last game they had 556 yards of rushing. So Plainfield defense is going to be tested here by the ground attack of the Whiteland Warriors. And I think that's what Coach Brian Woodard, when he mentions this is a step back, this was a team early in the season that was playing pretty good defense. Jacob Maple, he's among some of the best, one of the best in the Mid-State Conference, and Brady Nichols, his quarterback, has played very, very well. But when the defense keeps giving up points and you can't get your offense onto the field, the Quakers, they haven't been getting enough chances on offense. That is proven now in back-to-back losses. Guess what? They're going to go and play a Whiteland team, one of the best in the Mid-State Conference. Whiteland 5-2, and all Whiteland's done in their past 2 games is score over 60 points. Yeah. Now, granted, they've given up 42 to Martinsville and 38 to a Mooresville team, which is bad. But when you're scoring that often, you're going to give the opponent's offense a chance to get on the field and make some plays. Whiteland, under Coach Darren Fisher, they are 5-2 this year. They're scoring over 38 points per game, but they're also giving up 40 points. The Quakers, they've been scoring almost 34 points per game, but it's this defense that's now giving up almost 29 points. I think that's where Coach Woodard says this is where this team is starting to take steps back. Offense is still producing. The defense has been a bit of a letdown the past few weeks.
So I guess, Brian, what you're saying, too, is this could be like 40-35 or something. I would expect that, too. But, yeah, I was surprised at Whiteland's scoring against average. Coach Darren Fisher doing a good job, though, at Whiteland. He's over 60% win percentage. So at home against Plainfield this week, it's a big game for them. Of course, a big game for Plainfield. I see it as a close, high-scoring game. I'm going to give Whiteland a slight edge.
Warriors, again, one of the better teams in the Mid-State Conference, and as Chris mentioned, they've been very successful the last few years. We move on to the Danville Warriors, and the Warriors were looking for a win last week. They had only had one so far during the season. They were riding a 3-game losing streak. They got that win. They went on the road to Southmont, and Danville came away with a 53-20 victory against the Mounties. And when you take a look, Autry Pickens, 294 yards on 19 carries. Christian Schabel, 99 yards on 9 carries. And the Warriors, they didn't have to throw the ball. They pretty much had Christian Schabel back there, and they were basically handing the ball off to Autry Pickens, and Schabel was also doing the job himself, and they just tore up a Southmont team. Again, Danville was up 20-6 after the first quarter, and they led 32-20 at the half. Pretty nice win and a good way for Coach Russ Sumner to kind of get a bounce back here.
Yeah, they needed that. And I know their players had to be happy scoring that many points. Autry Pickens, he was awesome. He had 5 touchdowns. So they did a good job. That was a big win at Southmont. Now, of course, they're going to face the Frankfort Hot Dogs, 4A team also, but they're 2-5. They have played some tough competition these last 3 weeks. One lost to North Montgomery, lost at Lebanon, weren't really in that game, and then lost at Tri-West. So they did win their last game against Crawfordsville big. They scored 68 points in that.
Now, the Athenians not high on the radar this year. Probably the best win for the Hot Dogs this year. They beat a very good Western Boone team 7-6 earlier this season. But for Coach Mike Quick, a 2-5 record. They're averaging a little over 18 points per game coming into this contest while giving up almost 26. For Coach Russ Sumner, not quite, again, the prolific offense that the Warriors had last season. They are now averaging about 20 points per game, but when you score 53, that's going to jack that average up quite a bit. It's been the defense that has been the bugaboo for the Warriors this season. They're giving up almost 31 points per game. Look to see if they can hold down a Frankfort team before Danville will close out the regular season at home against North Montgomery. Tri-West coming off of a huge rivalry game where they defeated Western Boone by the score of 28-20 last Friday. It's the 4th win in a row for Coach Chris Cole's Tri-West Bruins. They are now ranked 10th in Class 3A, and they will have their final home game of the regular season this week when they face Southmont. Against Western Boone, Jake Hendershot, 20 carries for 200 yards in that game, and he also threw for 235 yards. If you want to say, well, there's the Tri-West offense, so be it. I think Coach Call will take that every week.
That's right. Hendershot's been fantastic. Running, passing, he's doing it all for them right now. So it's another big game for them. I know they want to get this, but boy, quarterback Hendershot, he has been fantastic for Tri-West.
He's going to be one of those guys that at the end of the year when you start looking at area players, and we're going to hear about Toks Akinribade, and we're going to hear possibly about guys like Brandon Peters, sophomore quarterback for Avon. Jake Hendershot, by far, has been the best quarterback in Hendricks County.
That's right. He's put up better numbers than every one of them, and, of course, leadership. They all say, he's done a great job with that at the quarterback position, which, of course, is important. So I think he's been fantastic.
Chris Cole's Bruins, again, riding a 4-game winning streak. Final home game this week will be against the Mounties of Southmont. Southmont comes in with a record of 3-4. They've lost their last 2, including last week's 53-20 blowout loss against Danville. And over the last 15 years, Tri-West is 10-5 in this series, including a 42-14 win last year at Southmont.
And, Brian, I thought that was a big win last week for Tri-West against Western Boone. That's a big rivalry game. It's always tough. So I think they feel all confident coming into this game. Be very tough for Southmont. I see Tri-West getting a big win here.
Cascade Cadets, they got back on the winning track. They defeated Edgewood last week 39-34. It gets tough this week. They will face the 12th-ranked team in Class 3A, Greencastle. The Tiger Cubs 6-1. Their lone loss was at South Putnam a couple of games ago. Since then, wins against North Putnam 42-7 and 49-24 against Cloverdale. Not great competition, but for the Tiger Cubs, they are now 6-1. They average almost 37 points per game while giving up only 18. Cascade under Coach Jason Thompson, well, it can only be really termed so far a pretty successful season. The Cadets 5-2. They're averaging over 34 points per game, giving up 25. You look at a game against Speedway, and we said last week, for some reason, the Sparkplugs just have the number for all the Hendricks County schools, especially when you go play at Speedway. And the only other loss for the Cadets this year was earlier this season at home against the Monrovia Bulldogs. And over the last 15 years, Cascade is 9-7 in this series, but Greencastle shut them out last year. That was a game at Greencastle, 30-0.
Right. And if you look at Cascade's schedule, they had success earlier on, winning 4 out of the first 5 games. Well, here towards the back end, this schedule's really gotten tough. We know about that game at Speedway they lost. Now in these next 2 weeks, Greencastle coming into this game, they face them as, Greencastle 6-1, and then next week, Cascade finishes at South Putnam, which is 6-1 also. So these next 2 weeks, if Cascade is going to win this conference championship, they've got a chance to do it. They almost would have to win both of them, and then that would put them at 7-2. Greencastle and South Putnam may lose one of their games, but for a conference championship, the opportunities at hand with these 2 games for Cascade, Greencastle, and then at South Putnam, but it's going to be a very tough challenge. We do want to mention running back Zach Butler for Cascade last week. 5 touchdowns, 233 yards, and again, good quarterback play by Sawyer Donovan. The defense by Cascade, well, they've been touched up a little bit. They're giving up 25 points a game. They give up 34 to Edgewood, but this is a big test these next 2 weeks for Coach Thompson and Cascade.
Well, most coaches will not talk about it, and they say we only look ahead to the game that's being played Friday. One of the things, and Coach Comer talked a little bit, we always talk about confidence. We always talk about player confidence and during a game, during a series or whatever. Well, you've also got team confidence as we get ready for sectional plays. After this weekend, everybody will know who their sectional opponent's going to be. If you're Avon and Brownsburg, well, you've got that possibility. They could be facing each other once again in a very tough sectional. But everybody will know after this week, and if no matter what coach you are for which team, you've got to have that a little bit in the back of your mind that you want to get these next 2 games. You want to play well. We take a look at teams like Cascade and other teams that might be a little dinged up. You don't want to get hurt. If you're Coach Brett Comer and the Bulldogs, you've already got an injury list that'll fill up a MASH unit. Yeah. But right now you want to see, try to get healthy, but build that confidence up. In a 1-game situation, cream usually rises to the top when we talk about football teams, but on any given night and you play with confidence, a lot of good things can happen.
Yeah, it has. And speaking of confidence, I don't think there's anybody playing with more confidence right now than Avon. So, that's why we're going to give them a big edge this weekend. Brownsburg, so many question marks going into this Zionsville game. I don't know how much confidence they have, but these coaches aren't going to tell you that. You're right, but they're looking at these finals 2 weeks and how they set up before the tournament.
Let's take a quick look at the conference standings involving Hendricks County schools. In the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, Fishers and Westfield remain your conference co-leaders at 6-1. As we let's take a quick look at what happened last week. Avon defeated Lafayette Jeff 54-14. Brownsburg over Harrison 27-12. Fishers knocked off Zionsville 17-7. It was Hamilton Southeastern and a big win over Noblesville 26-9. And Westfield all over McCutcheon 42-28. Games of this week: Avon's at McCutcheon, Brownsburg at Zionsville, Hamilton Southeastern's at Harrison, Lafayette Jefferson at Fisher, and the big game in the HCC this week, Noblesville is at Westfield. Westfield and Fishers at the top of the conference at 6-1, followed by Hamilton Southeastern at 5-2. Avon and Noblesville are 4-3. 3 teams at 3-4. The Bulldogs have now crept up in that group. Brownsburg, McCutcheon, and Zionsville all at 3-4. Lafayette Jeff is 1-6, and Harrison they're still looking for a win over the past 2 years. In the Mid-State Conference, games last week: Decatur Central over Greenwood 40-19. Franklin defeated Plainfield 42-28. Martinsville over Roncalli 42-21. That was a big game for Martinsville. Whiteland all over Mooresville 62-38. This week, Greenwood is at Franklin. Roncalli is at Decatur Central. We'll see how well Decatur Central does against that Roncalli defense. Martinsville didn't seem to have a problem with it last week. Mooresville is at Martinsville, and then Plainfield is at Whiteland. Whiteland sits atop the Mid-State with a 4-0 record, 5-2 overall. Decatur Central, after starting slow, they're 4-3 overall, but where it matters is in the Mid-State Conference. They are 4-1. Franklin, Martinsville, and Plainfield all 2-2 in the conference, followed by Greenwood at 1-3 and Mooresville at 0-5. In the Sagamore last week, Danville defeated Southmont 53-20. Frankfort over Crawfordsville 68-7. North Montgomery 14, Lebanon 10. That dropped Lebanon from the ranks of the unbeaten last week. And Tri-West in that big rivalry game defeated Western Boone 28-20. This week, Crawfordsville is at Lebanon, Danville at Frankfort, Southmont at Tri-West, and Webo is at North Montgomery. With that loss, that put Tri-West into the conference co-lead with Lebanon at 4-1. North Montgomery and Western Boone follow at 3-2. Then Southmont, Danville, Frankfort, they're all 2-3 in the Sagamore. Crawfordsville still looking for their first win of the season. And finally in the West Central, last week Cascade defeated Edgewood 39-34. Greencastle over Cloverdale 49-24. Monrovia 36, North Putnam 22, and South Putnam 45, Mount Vernon Posey 21. This week, Brebeuf is at North Putnam, Greencastle at Cascade, Owen Valley at Cloverdale, and South Putnam is at Monrovia. South Putnam currently the leader in the West Central at 3-0. They're 6-1 on the season. Greencastle and Monrovia 3-1 in the conference, so Greencastle is 6-1 on the year. Cascade follows at 2-1, but they're going to wrap up their season, as Chris mentioned, with West Central Conference games. So they still have a good shot at possibly winning the West Central. They'll have to get past South Putnam in the final game of the regular season and win this week if they want a chance for a shot at the co-championship. They are 2-1 and 5-2 overall. Cloverdale, North Putnam, they are winless in West Central. So still a chance for Cascade to pull out a West Central co-championship. They'd have to have a lot of things break right if they want to claim the sole championship.
I hope they can get it done, but that's two tough games, Greencastle and then finishing up at South Putnam. Maybe they can, but they need to take care of business this week against a tough Greencastle team.
Of course, we have a whole lot of action for you of high school football involving Hendricks County schools coming up on 1610 AM XRB and also xrbradio.com. My co-host Christopher Worley will be joined by Troy Weimer this week as the Bulldogs take on Zionsville. I will be at McCutcheon, and you can watch that game on xrbradio.com as the Avon Orioles take on the McCutcheon Mavericks. Kickoff for all of the games is at 7 o'clock. Pre-game for the Avon game is at 6:45. And then you can also watch the Plainfield game this week also on xrbradio.com. Actually, you can, I think, listen to that game. Plainfield is at Whiteland. I don't think we will have video, but you can catch that on xrbradio.com. So, Chris, big exciting week. Only got 2 weeks left, and when you and I get back together next week, we're going to talk a little bit. We'll save it for the final show, but we're going to talk a little bit about sectional opponents.
Yep, we'll know a lot more after this big week here, Brian.
All right. We're so glad that you joined us for the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show here on 1610 AM XRB and xrbradio.com. We want to thank our title sponsor, McDonald's, College Prospects of America. They hosted our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week. That was Toks Akinribade of the Brownsburg Bulldogs and BMO Harris Bank. I want to thank my co-host, Christopher Worley. I'm Brian Scott. Reminder, next week we will be in Avon off of Rockville Road and 267 right in front of Kroger's for the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. Our special guest will be Mark Bless. I want to thank our guests this evening, Brownsburg head football coach Brett Comer and Toks Akinribade, and we want to thank you for joining us. Tune in next time for the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and xrbradio.com.